God. Here we go. Lovely job. Right guys, welcome back to the channel. Back again, still playing around with this little mini bike. So in the last video you would have seen that I was trying to make my little mini bike here. This one here is basically like a little mini pit bike, kind of like a kid's one, kid's teenage one. It's about 1500 watts. It's got a 48 volt battery in it. Go check out the last video for all of that stuff. But basically I'm trying to make it quicker. As always with all the bikes, I try and make them faster. This one in particular, I don't want it to be like, I don't want ridiculous top end because it was already doing about 20 mile an hour, which is enough for this sort of bike anyway. But what I wanted to do was try and improve the torque and the low down power. So as you can see under here, I've already fitted a phase runner controller, which should allow me about probably 3,000–4,000 watts of power, something like that, with the right battery of course. It also allows me to kind of configure the throttle curve and kind of all that stuff to try and, you know, improve the acceleration. Obviously this is a mid-drive, so we've got, you know, the sprocket and everything else to think about, you know, gearing, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, long story short, the end of the last video, I rode it. It wasn't really improved that much over the standard controller on acceleration, but mid-range and top end was pretty ridiculous. But that's not really what I wanted. I wanted, you know, low down power. So the next thing I wanted to do was try a 72 volt battery. This is a 72 volt battery that I built for the Vapor bike. That's why it's just kind of funny shape to try and fit in the triangle. So this is a 20S3P of Samsung 21700s 35Ts, which each cell can deliver 35 amps. So 3 of them in parallel can deliver, in theory, 105 amps. I mean, it's pretty bonkers as a battery. This was in my workshop at my old house, and I had to kind of recover it last night because the BMS had kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's a Bluetooth BMS, but it's basically just started to discharge the battery because obviously the Bluetooth part of it was left on. Or anyway, it was starting to get into a pretty critical situation. There was like it was 2 volts a cell, so I had to recover this last night. It's all come back up to speed, as we can see from the VBMS app here. You know, it's pretty much charged. It's only a 9 amp hour battery, but it's light and high discharge, so it'll be good for this test anyway. You can see all the cells are pretty much on the nail. It has been balancing a little bit as well. Cell 6 was kind of like jumping ahead a little bit during the charging process, so I'm wondering if that might be an issue further down the road. But the main thing is it's showing about 80 volts, so it should be enough for a test. Just means I've got to take this 48 volt battery out. Now, a couple of you requested wanting to see inside this battery because it's quite an interesting shape, and I think a lot of people didn't believe that what's written on the outside is actually what's inside. It does feel a similar weight to like an e-bike battery of 48 volts, 15 amp hour, so I think it probably is what it says. It's just an interesting shape, so I'm going to whip the top off of this a bit later and we'll have a look what's inside. Right, it's all in there. Let's fire it up. Give it a rev. Holy hell. Let's go for a test run then. Right, so pull away. It's still having some issues. Definitely got a lot more mid-range though. So I've basically got my little, I'm recording this screen of the Phase Runner app, so you can actually see the battery voltage and current as well. So hopefully we'll be able to see what it does. That's where it's got the power there. Whoa, it's quick. It's incredibly quick. I'm going to have to be very careful with these brakes because okay. You look very happy. That moves. Jeepers, that is quick. Yeah, it's really quick. So basically what I've come to the conclusion of very quickly, we need to change the sprocket on this thing. 72 volts is basically bonkers, but it's just too quick. It doesn't need to be that quick, it just needs the torque down low. So to get away from the get-go, it's a bit better, but this just keeps on going. I mean, I've got a phase overload now. I think you'll see that come up as a fault on the controller. So that's full throttle. See, it's just not got that. Just not got that pull away. You either need a controller that's just going to just slam a load of amps in right at the beginning, like a cheap Chinese one, or shunt modded controller or something. You either need one of those, or you just got to change the sprocket. I think I'm just going to change the sprocket. It's the best way forward with this. Dangerous. Quite like it actually. Mid-range power is really good. But yeah, got some moody Peter about today. Just needs a sprocket change, guys. It really does. Just let this cool down a minute. Let this controller cool down and see if that got anything to do with it. Like, the motor is not even flipping warm. Let's do a little screen recording of the BMS, so you can see what's going on the BMS, just to make sure these cells are okay and everything's good with that battery. We're hardly pulling any power out of this battery. It's just so surprising. This is set to, so we've got about 5,000 watts set on this controller. We've got about what is it, 96 amps phase current, and yeah, it's maxed out, this phase runner controller, just not putting the power out. It's got to be to do with the ramp up, and the ramp up is set as like 1 millisecond or something, so it's not even the throttle ramp up that can be the problem. It is bizarre. Here we go. Lovely job. Getting used to falling now. Pretty quick when it gets going. Oh my god. Right, so scary top end. I mean, it feels safe though. That's the crazy thing. It does actually feel pretty safe, even going through that mud. Just, it's a well designed little bike. I've got to say, it's actually, the chassis and the suspension and everything actually feels pretty damn good. I'd rather do that speed on that than my Vapor, to be honest. Anyway, we still need to solve this bottom end torque, and I think what's happening here is the actual controller, because of the way the phase runner and a lot of these other controllers, because they're kind of intelligent, they actually ramp up the torque slowly, whereas, you know, brute force Chinese controllers tend to just put a load of power down or amps down right at the beginning. This controller isn't doing that. It won't drop all of its amps right at the beginning. It needs to get going before it actually does that. And I think this is the problem, because the gearing's wrong. It's like it can't get enough momentum to actually put the power down. Once it gets momentum, it's loony. And that kind of does make a lot of sense, because the Vapor bike has got, you know, the motor in that, an M620 Bafang, has got a reduction drive, and then you're going through like a normal bike chain, and then you've got like a massive cog on the back. Obviously you're trying to turn a big 27.5-inch wheel, so it's going to need those gears, but this definitely needs something with the gearing to make the low end kind of, you know, pop. So we're going to have a look at that. You know, there's plenty of room for a bigger rear sprocket on there, so, you know, I'd have to change the chain as well. But then I think we might actually even be able to run it at 48 volts, because unless you lose so much top end speed that you need that extra voltage to get the speed back, I mean, you can do tricks with the phase runner with flux weakening, you know, to increase the RPM, even though you know, you're running a lower voltage, so you probably could get quite a decent top speed out of a 48 volt battery. Anyway, whilst I'm here, I'm going to whip the top off of this battery. Hopefully the top of this cover will come off and we can see what's actually inside. So it actually says, so this is the 48 volt battery that came with it. This is a 15 amp hour battery, 48 volts. Right, so you ready to see what's inside, guys? Lovely brown cells. So spot the design flaw here. Anyway, so these are 18650s, obviously. We've got 13 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And they are, this is basically a square box. So it's going to be the same amount down that way. So what we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 2 is 14. So it's a 14 amp hour battery, because they're 2000 milliamp hour cells, if that is telling the truth. So it's a 14 amp hour, not a 15 amp hour. But, you know, these cells may deliver more at a lower current rate. So the Chinese lie, and I just tried Googling the part number on here as well. Can't find any information for the cells. Anyone seen these before? I doubt they're that high discharge cells, but and we've got the BMS there as well. But I'm going to do something about that. That's worrying.